Hi, and welcome back to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your guest. I am Tisha. We are your guests. We are your host. I am Tisha S. Waddell, former councilwoman of the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville. I'm joined by
Ted Moan, former council member, 8th District
of the city of Fayetteville, and
Elmer Floyd, former representative of North Carolina House for the 3rd District.
Gentlemen, how are we this morning?
Beautiful.
It is such a lovely day outside.
Oh,
Like the last 3 days have been phenomenal.
yep.
But do not be fooled. It will be cold again. Before we get started, I want you guys to look at my pen. You see my little lapel pen? Mm-hmm. See my lapel pen? Mm-mm. Mr. Floyd, you don't see my lapel pen.
What
is it? Okay, so my lapel pen is from the year 2001. It is the All-American City lapel pen. And it was gifted to me when I won my first term as council person. It was gifted to me by Mr. Robert Massey, my predecessor.
Oh.
Absolutely. Well, once removed. And I have maintained it. I never really wore it, but he said, if you ever wear this, people will wonder where you got it because they just don't make them anymore. So I said, let me wear it today. But I wanted to pay homage to Mr. Massey. I was thinking about him this morning. Been a lot of great people that came before us to make our city what it is. Mm-hmm. We've got some great people right now who make our city what it is. We are joined today by a great citizen of the city of Fayetteville who does phenomenal work on behalf of our citizens as far as healthcare is concerned. Mr. Floyd, who is our guest?
Mike
Nagowski.
and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
The Cape Fear Valley CEO.
The CEO of Cape Fear Valley Healthcare Systems, Mr. Mike Nagowski. Good morning, Mr. Nagowski.
Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to this.
We are excited to have you. We really want to jump right in. There's been a lot of construction that people have seen going on Owen Drive near the hospital. Can you please share with our audience, if they are unaware, what has happened at our hospital and why is it happening?
Yeah. Oh, I love talking about this, and I appreciate the fact that you've given me a couple of hours to go over it. So, and please stop me, ask me any questions that you have. I'm going to start with the 3 most visible construction projects that you can see from Owen Drive. So when you're looking at the hospital, to the right, we have just completed and are in the process of moving personnel in to the Center for Medical Education and the Neuroscience Institute. It is a 5-story, 120,000 square foot facility that will primarily house all of our physician residency facilities, environments, our world-class simulation center, and on the 5th floor is the Neuroscience Institute, where finally the facilities will match the world-class skills of our neurosurgeons and our neurologists. And I just can't tell you how terribly excited we are to bring that type of facility to our community.
That is exciting.
We had a public opening a couple of weeks ago, and you could just feel the excitement in the room. Just terribly wonderful for the area. And most important, it's going to help us address our physician shortage in southeastern North Carolina.
Okay. And that was going to be one of the questions that I asked about that facility. How is it going to impact jobs as they relate to the healthcare field here in Fayetteville and Cumberland County and southeastern North Carolina?
Yeah, thank you for that. So, one of the most important parts that of the healthcare industry that we're working on feverishly is workforce development. And we have incredible partners, right? Daryl at FSU and Larry and Mark at Fayetteville Tech and Stan and Suzanne at Methodist and the team at Campbell. And they're all working hard, and they're working hard on growing our nursing workforce, our respiratory therapy, all of our health professions. But at the end of the day, one of the most significant shortages we have in southeastern North Carolina is that of physicians. Just to give you a perspective, if prior to coming on this show, if you had said, hey, Mike, I have 20 doctors, they're all American trained, board certified, and they're nice people, I would hire them all.
Wow.
And so the proof is in the pudding. Right now at Cape Fear Valley, we are training the next generation of physicians. And we have over 300 physicians in training in a wide spectrum of specialties, from family practice, internal medicine, general surgery, emergency department, psychiatry, the transitional year, OBGYN. We have recently started fellowships in cardiology, child and adolescent psychiatry. This summer, we will start in collaboration with Womack Army Hospital at Fort Bragg an orthopedic residency. Next summer, we will start a pulmonology program. So this facility gives us the platform to continue to grow all of those physician specialties and to begin to populate the region with American trained, board certified physicians. So
do you think that we'll have a high retention rate of some of those physicians right here in our area?
We do. And the proof's in the pudding. So, our physician residency programs are fairly new. We have graduated 2 groups of physicians the last 2 years. And here's what the statistics are. 50% of all of our graduates have decided to remain in the area. 50%. That's incredible. And the other part of this is that the 50% that decided not to, well, a quarter of them were going on for additional training. So we weren't keeping them anyway. Mm-hmm. So we're very excited about the programs, but most importantly, retaining physicians. The healthcare impacts and the economic development are obvious.
Awesome. Mr. Floyd?
Mike, just for a little background information, can you relate to our audience how this program came about and how it got started, with the assistance of members of the General Assembly delegation?
Yeah, well, Representative Floyd, you were there, and you were and you helped create all of this, and we're very grateful for all of your efforts. So, back in 2010, when we learned that there was going to be a new medical school in the region, and Campbell stepped up and created the state's newest medical school, we were the first health system to call them and say, hey, we know what you're trying to do, and we want to be supportive. And part of our support was the creation of these physician residencies. But we would not have been able to do that if it was not for the generosity of our local officials and our state representatives. Representative Floyd and the delegations, when he was active there and currently, have been very supportive. And just to give you some examples, when we very first started the programs, the state of North Carolina provided $11 million of funding to start those programs. And then they capped all of that off just this past year with a $15 million contribution to the project. That Center for Medical Education has been completely paid for through philanthropy and grants, like Representative Floyd and I were just talking about. The local community and the state community have been extremely generous. We have not had to expend any hospital resources on the development of that facility.
That's amazing. So
go ahead. When we started this program, it had a price tag of how much money that it would bring into our community. Can you share that with our listening audience?
I certainly can. So we had 2 economic studies done, one by a firm out of Utah and one out of NC State, Dr. Michael Waldron. And the lesser of the 2 was a 10-year, $585 million impact to southeastern North Carolina, the development of these physician residencies. And we've already grown those residencies to a greater degree than we originally thought we were going to. So in addition to addressing the physician shortage, in addition to dealing with the economic impact of these all these new jobs, we also expect that you're going to continue to see overall our health outcomes of our population continue to improve. So it really was a trifecta.
Outstanding. I have two questions for you. One in relation to the economic development aspect. We recently talked about on our program the redevelopment of the Bordeaux Hotel. So that is in very close proximity to the hospital. Would you, my speculation is that there is probably a relationship between what is happening at Cape Fear Valley Hospital and what we see by way of redevelopment of that piece of property into units for apartments, for single.
Right, like 240 some apartments. And,
Right.
And they mentioned Cape Fear Valley as one of the
catalysts.
Right.
So, Mike, what can you say about that? Can you speak to what we should see as a result, as kind of the outreaching result, and aside from the healthcare aspect, what should we expect to see because this program is in our community?
Well, so at Cape Fear Valley, we employ over 7,500 professionals, and every single year we are recruiting thousands of individuals to work at the health system. Every single year, we recruit 500 nurses to come work at Cape Fear Valley. We employ 2,000 nurses, and with natural turnover and the turnover that results from Fort Bragg, we're always in a state of recruitment. And one of the biggest issues in the recruitment pieces, and it's a natural, people want to know, is there affordable housing? And how far is it from where I'm going to earn a paycheck? And so we are delighted that that area that is very close to the hospital is going to help address some of those housing issues.
Absolutely. So one of the other things that is very prevalent in the news right now is the discrepancy between what people perceive should be adequate health care versus what they're actually receiving, particularly as it relates to the Black community. And so I know that as we're talking about training, Mr. Nagowski, can you speak to some of the training initiatives that may be happening to resolve or address those types of concerns within our healthcare system?
Yeah. So the healthcare disparities are obvious and well documented. They're, not just locally here, but we see this across the nation. And, it's multifactorial and there's lots of reasons for it. But what matters is what are we doing going forward? One of the programs that we're really proud of is we are working hand in glove with Fayetteville State University to create additional opportunities for students from that school exposure into healthcare. We have a very robust internship program that Chancellor Allison and I put together, and it's specifically designed to give students at Fayetteville State a leg up, an opportunity to get skills in the healthcare industry so that when it's their chance to give back, or when it's their chance to take care of people coming to the hospital, we're a more representative and a more diverse community.
Mike, at one point in time, one thing that we saw in the African American community, in which Cape Fear Valley has, is doing much better, and that is the one disease that affect the African American community 1 out of 4, and that is sickle cell. And, 1 out of 4 African-American family, will encounter sickle cell if there's 4 members, in that family. So, Cape Fear Valley today is doing much better because they have a much better understanding of the disease than it was in the past years, some 20 or 30 years ago.
No, Representative Floyd, you are absolutely right. Sickle cell is just a terrible affliction, and it impacts so many people, especially in the African American community. And we've paid particular attention to that. So the protocols and the nurses and the physicians that have received additional training in that area, I think, are much more sensitive to it. One of the core issues, though, is the recruitment of specialists who have dedicated their careers to fighting that terrible disease. And that is something that we're focused on. We've not been highly successful in recruiting those individuals just yet, but it is an area of focus for us.
Mike, could you share with us there's, from a vision standpoint of view, and, and I wear glasses, there's 2 tall objects, at Cape Fear Valley. Now, could you share with us what's the purpose of those 2 objects?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I believe you're probably referring to the construction cranes that
Yes.
are on the campus. And that is going to be perhaps the largest expansion project we've had in the history of Cape Fear Valley. So the building that contains the emergency department, our first floor radiology department, our cardiac program, our mother baby, and some of our surgical floors is known as the Valley Pavilion. It was constructed and we brought it online in 2008. That building, when it was built, the people who came before me were smart enough to build it so that it could be added onto. Well, we're going to lean on those people, and we're going to add 2 more floors onto the Valley Pavilion building.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to add 100 additional beds to our health system. 40 of those beds will be intensive care beds. Every single day, Cape Fear Valley is full. And one of the problems we have is long waits in our emergency department. We are aware of it. We have a very hardworking, American-trained, board-certified team in the emergency department, highly qualified nurses. But until there's a bed available up on the floors, the emergency department backs up. So with this effort, we hope that we'll be able to provide additional capacity for our community. 100 new beds on top of the Valley Pavilion. That should give us the excess capacity to help alleviate some of the long waits that we have in the emergency department. And then one of the byproducts of all of this is, over the last 5 or 6 years, we've taken over responsibility for our helicopter service. We have 2, soon to be 3 helicopters that are in the region transporting patients to Cape Fear Valley and then sometimes elsewhere. And right now, the only landing pad we have here in Fayetteville for the hospital is on our front lawn. Mm-hmm. And while we're grateful that we have a spot, most modern healthcare systems place that landing pad on top of their building, so that when the helicopter comes in and is bringing us a patient, they can land on top of the building and they take elevators immediately down to the trauma bays or to the cardiac catheterization procedural room. So this project will be completed in the summer of 2025. It is a $100 million bed expansion. And as I said, it's the most exciting project we've had in quite a while.
And what's the second crane? I mean, there's 2 cranes now.
Well, both cranes
are both going to use for the same project?
Yes. Yeah. The reason is, you have to be very careful when you're adding on to a building that's occupied. And, our emergency department is the single busiest emergency department in the state of North Carolina. And so in order to keep everybody safe in the parking lots and the walkways in the building, it's going to take a little bit extra work. And so that's the reason for both of the cranes. So those are 2 of the most significant projects. I have one more project. I don't want to take too much time, but I have one more project that might be the most important project that the health system has embarked on recently. That if I have time, I'd love to tell your audience.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So the 2 projects that I've talked about right now are highly visible, right? You can come down Village or Owen and you can see the Center for Medical Education and Neuroscience Institute. You can see that. As Representative Floyd just said, you can see the 2 cranes and you're going to see the construction going on. You'll see that from the road. But maybe the most important construction project that Cape Fear Valley has taken on recently is the construction of a 16-bed adolescent unit for behavioral health patients. That project was completed this summer, and I just checked before we went on air, and that unit is completely full right now. These are adolescents who are in need of behavioral health inpatient care. Before this project was completed, we would have to send these children, these adolescents, teenagers, sometimes 2.5 hours away for care.
Wow.
And so the North Carolina delegation, and Representative Floyd was a part of this, was instrumental in helping us get the funding from the Dorothea Dix project in Raleigh to help fund that building and that unit. And we're eternally grateful. The families, the parents, the children are now getting the right kind of care in their own community.
That's amazing. I have one final question for you, and then I'd like for you to leave our guests with your final thoughts. My last question, you did reference that we are the busiest emergency room in the I think you said in North Carolina. Is that accurate?
Yes, the busiest in the state of North Carolina and the 8th busiest in the nation.
Okay, so understanding that, and also with our limited amount of knowledge as to what type of trauma comes through our hospital, when I served in elected capacity, and I think Mr. Nagowski, we talked about this briefly, and you gave me a lot of hope when I mentioned it to you. One of the things that I observed was upon visiting San Antonio, the strong relationship that the city of San Antonio had with their military base, and the way that they worked with their hospital to train and prepare their soldiers to respond to the traumas that they see when they are over in conflict overseas. And so one of the things that I'd really be interested in knowing is, do we have something like that functions here in Fayetteville? Because that actually brought in a lot of resources from the federal government into the community and into the hospital based upon that relationship. And I know you touched a little bit earlier on the relationship with Fort Bragg, but can you just expound a little bit on what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our partners at Womack do a great job, and we have a wonderful relationship. As a former active duty Marine, I have great admiration for the men and women who wear the uniform. And our relationship with Womack runs deep. Just to give you a sense of it, we provide all of the inpatient pediatric care for Womack. They no longer have an inpatient pediatric unit. All of that care, all of those children come to Cape Fear Valley. Their physicians at Womack have the ability to round on those patients, and we see the men and women in uniform come to see their children on a regular basis. So that runs very deep. We also, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier, in partnership with Womack, we are creating an orthopedic residency so that the physicians can come back and forth. Cape Fear Valley is a level 3 trauma center. We act like a level 2, and some nights, many nights, we act as a level 1. So the amount of training and experience that our military brethren will get here is just superb. Mm-hmm. So the training runs deep. We also find that, as a matter of fact, right before we went on air, I was talking with an orthopedic physician who is retiring from Womack and is very interested in joining Cape Fear Valley's orthopedic group. So we're excited for the relationship there, and it runs deep.
We appreciate that. So you have the floor. You can leave our audience with whatever thoughts that you would like to share with them. But we do want to thank you for joining us today, Mike.
Well, you are very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. In terms of the community has been fabulous. Thank you for allowing us to serve you. We are here for you. All the growth that we talked about this morning is not for growth's sake. It's to provide more access, better access, and a higher level of care for the people we call our neighbors. This is our home. This is our community, and we're proud to be here.
Absolutely. Again, please thank Ms. Melvin for helping to coordinate this interview, and we most certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day. We look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
All right. Enjoy your day. Thank you
as
all.
Well.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our 2-minute break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors. We do want all of those residents who are coming into Cumberland County to know that they can reach out to LMR Realty in order to find their new home and get situated here in the city of Fayetteville. And we'll go ahead and run our ads. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of these current events. We'll talk about the bills that passed in the House and in the Senate. We'll talk about the landfill. We'll talk about... we'll just talk about it until our time is up. So make sure you catch us right back in about 2 minutes. Go ahead and grab you some coffee, use the bathroom, whatever you need to do. We'll be right back.
So we shouldn't need these.
No, correct.
You looking for a real estate agent who knows the Fayetteville community inside and out? Look no further, as your hometown girl, LaTanya, has extensive experience of our area and experience in its real estate market. Latanya delivers results. At LMR Realty Group, we all understand that buying or selling a home can be a stressful experience. When you partner with us, you control the decisions while LMR Realty Group guides the process. And together, we'll work from contract to close with ease. Whether you're a first-time buyer, downsizing, or expanding your investment portfolio, LMR Realty Group has got you covered. As a bonus, if you call and go under contract by March 31st, LMR Realty Group can cover up to $400 for a home warranty on a resale property with all appliances included. Some exclusions apply. Don't wait. Call 910-574-8225 or visit ELLIMARrealtygroup.com to get you started. Let's make your dream home a reality with LMR Realty Group.
Five tips from Langdon Heating and Air to transition your HVAC unit at home to the heating season. 1. For your safety, check smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, especially if your home is heated with gas. 2. Ensure you are getting your HVAC unit inspected for cracks, leaks, and any other defect that would prevent it from operating properly. 3. Make sure your unit is clean to maximize efficiency. 4. Check your filters and make sure you are changing them every 30 days. Note you do not have to buy the most expensive filters. And 5. Avoid running your heating system on emergency heat. This is the most expensive form of heat. Langdon Heating and Air's technicians operate with experience, integrity, and excellent customer service and can ensure your system is ready for this winter. Remember, managing small issues costs much less than major repairs, so be sure to have your system inspected and be proactive in keeping your maintenance costs low. Service plans are available. Call Langdon Heating and Air at 910-745-7228 for more information. Back to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We were just joined by Mr. Mike Nagowski, CEO of Cape Fear Valley Healthcare Systems. Definitely some very good information. Mr. Floyd, I do want to make sure that our audience is well aware of one of the things that we were able to hear, and that is that you, as a member of our delegation at that particular time, were instrumental in ensuring that this project was able to move forward. Talk a little bit, just for a minute or so, about how did you do that as a function of your job? Leverage. But you also had to know something, because to bring that to the table and say, let's do this.
Politics is about one thing.
Relationship and negotiation.
Yeah. Very plain. Yeah. Short.
Negotiation.
Short and to the point is that people send you to Raleigh to represent them in their absence. Mm-hmm. And they expect for you to return that with some mean of a programs and projects.
Absolutely.
So you listen to your constituents. And when at the appropriate time you begin to negotiate these things that would help your community grow, possibly to move from tier 1 to tier 2 and then on 3.
To 3. Yeah. What a dream that would be. Mm-hmm. So we talked about some things offline. Let's go ahead and jump right into them, because there's a lot going on. Mr. Moan, we saw Uncle Ted. What did we see happening in the General Assembly?
Well, yesterday the House passed the anti-rioting bill. This is not a anti-peaceful protest
Talk
bill.
about that a little bit, because it was a little bit controversial.
And it's, from what I could tell, it's more targeted for violence and property destruction. House Bill 40, they called it, and it passed 75 to 43. And there were only 5 Democrats that supported it, and then it was sent over to the Senate yesterday.
I always find it interesting that a country that was founded on the premise of social unrest and a disruption of the political norm would then try to create rules to make sure that never happens again. I think what we should always be very focused on as citizens, and I know nobody wants to see damage or destruction, but the truth of the matter is that is how this nation was built. We were once under British authority. The people that came over here came under here under British authority. They got tired of being taxed without representation, right? And so, I mean, if my recounting history is accurate in terms of the most current system of what we see, and so they overthrew their government. They came out from under that oppression and established what we now see, or began to establish what we now see as the United States of America. So that it just always amazes me when I see our legislators enact rules that say y'all won't do that again.
Yeah, and so my question for Mr. Floyd, it was sent over to the Senate yesterday. Do they typically create their own bill and then they reconcile, or could they
just take
it as is since they have a majority in the Senate?
Let me share this with you, very simple.
Yep.
No bill has the same life and read the same once it moves through the process.
Okay. So there's gonna be a tweaking of the language of the bill
and possibly adding.
Okay.
Then does it go back to the House?
Then they would set up a committee to
Right.
hammer out the differences so that they could get a bill that is agreeable.
On both.
By both chambers.
Both. Okay. So it's not done yet.
No.
Okay.
The Senate is going to look at it, and once it runs through the various committees, it may change in each committee, and may change on the Senate floor with amendments.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and before our show, we were talking about the Parents' Bill of Rights Rights Bill.
The Parents' Bill of Rights, where they are challenging this current structure of being able to really just push this this agenda of sexuality on these elementary school students. And so from what I understand, and I'm sure that you've probably had more opportunity to read the bill, it's pushing back on that and saying,
right.
Not from kindergarten to fourth grade, these conversations will be off limits
right.
as
and,
far
and
as
that one passed also, but I haven't read the detail. I just summary.
I want to make a mention of that too, because I saw recently remember I always bring up to you guys, because let me say it again because I haven't said it in a while. I am unaffiliated. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just unaffiliated. And so one of the things that I consistently articulate is that I believe that both parties have a messaging problem. They are inconsistent in being able to deliver a message that resonates with the vast majority of the citizens that they serve.
Let me say this to you. Democracy works at its best when you follow a leader.
I understand, but this is
what I'm saying to you.
Absolutely.
Democracy works at best when you follow a leader. Now that's what we consider democracy. Now
is do what you're told.
Now you understand what I'm saying.
I get it. So
that's democracy
I get
at
it
work.
completely. And that's the part that I want to kind of address, because I think that one of the things that we will continue to see is a pushback against that, because I think that there are a lot of people that are amenable to this type of legislation. And the reason I say that, while I was scrolling through TikTok the other day, and a video popped up on my news feed, and it was
you don't supposed to have access to TikTok.
I know, but I'm a big girl. I'm allowed to watch what I want to watch. So I was looking at the video, and it was former President Trump, and he was giving a speech, and he was talking about what he intended to do if and when he were reelected as the president of the United States. And he was specifically addressing the abuse of children through the structure and system of these sexual orientation reassignments and trainings. And as I went through and looked at, because I listened to what he said, and then I went in and I looked at the comments, and overwhelmingly, the vast majority of the comments said this: I don't like Trump, but I agree with everything he's saying right now. And so I say that to say, I believe that people need to begin to understand the constituency which they wish to serve. Stop trying to, it's an old song. Y'all remember the song? I think her name was Sybil.
Again, teach democracy works at its best
when you do as you're told.
When you do as you're told and follow the leader.
That's what people think.
That's democracy.
That's what they think. But I'm going to refer back to that old song that Sybil sang that said, don't make me over. And so what we, the people, are trying to tell our politicians is, once you get in that place and you have us at your behest, do not try to make us over. Don't try to make us be what you want us to be. We don't want all of these radical ideas. We want you to handle the money that we give you in terms of taxes, fix these roads, fund these schools, pay these teachers.
We did.
But stay out of my house.
They do all of that, But again, democracy works at its best when it's there.
All right, Mr. Floyd. Okay.
And that's the problem that we have in both parties.
I get you. I got you.
And what is going to happen this legislative session, there are going to be a lot of Democrats that is going to receive the same blessing that Kurt received, Senator Ville.
Yeah, you better listen or else.
He did not follow protocol. Okay.
He didn't kiss the ring.
Yeah. You see, and that's what is going to happen in this General Assembly. You're going to see more Democrats are going to think for themselves. And that's what you see
Is
with
that because the governor cannot run in anymore, so they don't really care anymore?
Well, no, it's
Well,
not
they
that.
ought to
The
still care
government
because
still,
apparently he runs the money still.
he still have relationships with PACs, because you got to look at 2026, not getting away from what you have on the agenda.
Right. No, that's
he
good.
still want to look at 2026
For another office.
So that means that he would have to have relationship. PACs talk just like any other organization or bodies talk about who they wish to support. And the executive branch may not, but they have one gentleman who talks and have a relationship with these various PACs that help with the funding. As Senator Ville mentioned on our program, once it was announced that he had a challenger, his money source grew up.
Yes,
Why did it grow up?
You
It's
talking
very
about
simple.
Morgan Jackson?
I believe that's the correct pronunciation. You see, his money source grew up. Okay, and so that's what we have to look at. The reason why we are not able, as minorities, to be successful in the General Assembly, because it's very simple. A lot of minority representatives are conservative, or they're moderate. They're not liberal. All 49
because
are not
a lot of
liberal.
minorities in North Carolina are conservative or moderate. The citizens
They're not
they serve,
liberal.
that's right.
But they want you to accept a liberal vision.
Because that's what they're being told to push. I got you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay.
But y'all better start doing what we tell you and stop doing what the governor tells you.
So there was a news conference yesterday. It was multiracial from both the House and the Senate, and they called themselves the HBCU caucus. Now,
Okay.
I've never been in a caucus, but Mr. Floyd, you worked at the General Assembly. What does a caucus do at the General Assembly? If you had to, I mean, or what is their purpose?
The purpose of a caucus is to have a relationship with whatever agenda that a caucus adopt.
Okay.
So there could be a caucus on tennis courts.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you sort of push forward your agenda. When you say a HBCU,
Yeah, we're talking about like Fayetteville
we're
State.
talking about anywhere between 55, depending on who you talk with, 55 to 58% of the budget goes to education, with maybe $3 billion towards for your 4-year college and the X for your community college, and then about $8 million for your K-12. Okay, so you're going to have to look at how can that caucus cut into that money stream that is going to your other 11 universities
to get their piece of the pie.
to get their piece of the pie. Can they negotiate to get, you frown them, can they get more money for Elizabeth City? But like before, when I was in this session, being sarcastic, when the student went to the library, he carried an umbrella. Okay, that's how bad the library was. Okay.
Now,
So,
when I watched the video, I did notice Val Applewhite, Francis Jackson, and Charles Smith were all there.
They're
so
part of that
three of our
caucus?
local delegation are part of this caucus. And then I believe
But
that
the question to you again, council person, can they deliver to improve the quality of programs that is given to the universities?
And do they have a vested interest in that? Because I know that Senator Applewhite was a former member of the board of
directors, governors,
for
Board of
Fayetteville State, the board of trustees.
Board of trustees, and she did a great job. Yeah.
But she wanted a different it was my understanding that she wanted a different position within that entity and was not granted.
Oh yeah.
Well, again, what y'all have to realize, it is the Rules Chair and the Senate Pro Tem that assign committees.
Right.
Okay, now I added the Senate Pro Tem.
No, I'm talking about though with Fayetteville State.
Okay, let me say again.
Okay.
Let me say again. They assign committees. Mm-hmm. When Senator Applewhite was first communicated about to us from the governor, that she is able to address education and health care. Mm-hmm. First, in order to have a negotiating point, you got to be on those subcommittees to make changes in the subcommittees. Mm-hmm. Now, when they get to the House, the Senate and House floor, it's 95 to 98% a done deal. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have
came
input
from the committee.
So if you weren't in the committee,
if you wasn't in the committee to
Understood.
negotiate a change, and did not talk with that bill sponsor about that change, and you come unannounced to him or her on the Senate or House floor, they're going to be just as nice to Tish Waddell and commend her about how tall she is, how she dressed, and everything. But I'm going to ask you not to support her amendment.
Mm-hmm, because it doesn't have anything to do with what we already discussed. Let me ask you a
She had an
question.
opportunity to do it, but did not come to me in advance.
Are caucuses put together arbitrarily or are they appointments?
No, I mean, just like we had the North Carolina Black Legislature caucus.
Okay.
That's a caucus of most of your black representative in any other minority group would be a member of that.
Got it.
But,
Okay.
So you could have a Hispanic caucus.
You could have
or
a caucus.
Okay.
You can have that. But
Got it.
remember now, all of these caucus of whatever they have, well, that is the speaker chamber on the House side. I can't speak for the Senate side. But that speaker, that little rectangle, that's his domain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What else you got on that list for us?
This coming Monday, the city council is supposed to finally appoint a PWC commission. Mm-hmm. I looked at the agenda. There's like 6 or so consent items, and then the appointment.
Come to think of it, I think I read your name.
I'm one of 5, but
Yes, sir.
politically,
Yes, sir.
they're not going to vote for me.
I mean, I'm just saying I read your name in the list of candidates.
Yeah, there's 5. Let's see, there was something else.
They also had a conversation. I know that there was a conversation during their most recent work session about wanting to move forward with being able to determine the financial impact of gun violence on the community.
Yes, that was a 9-1 vote.
Right, which I thought was very interesting because I think, and I've seen it happen twice now. I hear somebody who is already vilified say something that is probably very accurate, but it is discounted because they are already vilified and because it is not popular or politically correct. Because what I heard, now I don't agree with the entire statement, because there was a portion of what he said that if you know how the nuns had a ruler and they pop your hand when you got out of line, he needed a hand pop. But when Johnny Dawkins was reported as saying that this was a Health and Human Services financially responsibility. Yes, the city bears onus in this because it is our first responders who are having to respond to these initiatives. But I do agree with Councilman Dawkins, or Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins, that this should be a county and city initiative.
With
It
the
should
sheriff,
be absolutely. This should be something that should be looked at across the county of Cumberland and not just isolated into the city of Fayetteville.
I have said it, and I have said it, and I have said it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to address crime, you can address crime through code enforcement.
Absolutely.
That is one thing that I admire the chief. Now, when the city and county and all of those government entities begin to look at that, as an instance, on the street where I live at, the gentleman ride his bike and he rides up in the air on one wheel. Mm-hmm. But he didn't realize, he gonna realize that a lot of my cousins don't stop at that corner.
Yeah.
Okay, don't stop at that corner. And then you have neighborhood wait.
And they're riding dirt bikes, which are illegal. Yeah.
And then you have neighbors that playing loud music. Mm-hmm. With cars, with an auto yard in the front yard.
Absolutely.
You see, when you see these kinds of things, that is what we call testing an environment of what that environment will tolerate. So if you allow these things to go, next thing, for instance, one street, loud music, already had 1 killing and 2 shootings. You see, those are the kinds of things that bring in crime, because people test the system and they know that if you call, you might not get service.
Absolutely.
Or that community is fearful when we ride around in air-conditioned police cars and you don't hear the noise. Mm-hmm. You just moving through the community. Address crime through code enforcement, wherein that the landlord, the property owner, and the city is held.
That's right. That's right. And Mr. Floyd, it's interesting that you mentioned that about the police officers, and I'm going to use a different terminology, but I'm going to say kind of turning a blind eye, because Mr. Moan, you were on council with me when we created an ordinance that prohibited people from standing at intersections and passing items into or out of a vehicle.
Yeah, in and out of vehicle.
Okay, and it was intended specifically to address the epidemic of panhandling that we were seeing throughout the community. It was not to be a slap on the hand. It was to be an ordinance that said, if you violate this, you will receive a ticket. I pulled up to an intersection the other day when I was coming off of 87, getting off on the Bragg Boulevard exit. I pulled up, and I actually wasn't getting off of 87. The police officer was getting off of 87. I was driving down Bragg Boulevard. I stopped at the light and I observed a police officer on a motorcycle. So you are not oblivious because you are on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. He pulled up to the intersection. There was a man there who was panhandling. The man continued to panhandle in the presence of the police officer. There was transactions in and out of the window, which lets me know that people are unaware of the law. In addition to that, when the police officer got up next to the man, he didn't say anything to him. He drove right off, and the man stayed right there at the intersection.
Well, that goes back to the point, Tish.
No enforcement.
Why adopt an order
that you won't enforce?
That you will not enforce. As an example, the enforcement comes from law enforcement, which is the chief, and I went to this swearing-in ceremony the other day. The city manager introduced the chief as his person to run the police department. Right. So therefore, the enforcement of those ordinances come through the city manager, to me, through the police.
But I think often, and I think this is when I read the statement, and I'm not defending anybody because I don't care enough about, I'm not defending anybody, but I will say this. When I read the statement that Mayor Pro Tem Dawkins gave, what I understood him to be saying, and I could be wrong, but this is what I understood. This is what I inferred from it. We make a study and we shelve it. So we spend this money.
That's normal, Tish.
Absolutely, but it is an appeasement. And so what I heard was, you're asking for something and I want to see a meaningful change, but I'd like to help guide this and direct this in a way where it can actually be a meaningful change, because what you're going to get is what we've continued to get time and time again. You're going to get a study, you're going to get the findings of the study, you're going to have them, then you're going to have a conversation about it. And then what? Because we
and every one of in the county and the city,
it's the same.
I mean, what they have and what they say, safety and health of our citizens. Safety and health. That's what all of them say. But the question of it is, do they do it? You know. And by the way, Ted, you know, there's a question there too that you talked about is tolling
I-95. The toll road for I-95.
Senator McGinnis, I'm not sure if they've submitted bills yet or not, but I'm sure there has to be a bill, at least from Senator McGinnis did submit a bill, I believe. So I haven't read that one yet.
He also talked about the equitable conversation. Now, again, Tisha, I don't want this to be a flawed program. Back in the late 2000s, the toll road for I-95 actually started under the Democrat in the late 1998 about tolling I-95.
Well, I remember Senator Larry Shaw was a proponent for
tolling.
Yeah.
Okay, but one thing you had to do, you had to be careful what you tell the government or what you ask the government that you can do better than the federal government itself.
Because they'll take it and say, go with it.
Go with it. Now, the other thing of it is, I-95 had been talked about being told. I was part of a bill that said, okay, the existing 2 lanes of I-95 is already built. Don't charge the taxpayer again for building those 2 lanes. But if you want to build additional 2 lanes, and then those 2 lanes must be open. Okay? Must be open. And they said, well, if we would toll 95, we then can have a speedy 8 lanes, 6 lanes highway. But, Brother Ted, southeastern North Carolina don't need a toll road. If you want to do some tolling, toll 40 at exit 312 in Raleigh. And it will pay all your road construction on I-40.
Or toll the new 295. I never understood why the new 295 wasn't a toll road.
It might become once it's
I never understood that, because if you toll 295, that's not such a big deal, because if you don't want to pay the toll, you just take the long way. That's usually how, coming from up north and seeing how, that's how tolls work. The toll roads are the shortest route, the most direct route.
But a lot of trucking companies, for instance, we have Teller Trucking Company here that serves Kelly Springfield. His toll bill would be about $1.2 million a year.
If you toll 95.
If you toll 95 for his trucks, it's right off Hope Mill, somewhere down in that area there. And so what I'm saying is that many companies do not allow their trucks to use toll roads.
Right.
And so if they toll I-95, Mr. Vic, the best thing I can say, you live on 401, you're going to have to wait to get out the driveway.
Well, gentlemen, we're coming up on our time. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we tell our viewers and our listeners before we close out today's program?
Let me say this, is that the county real quickly is looking at expanding the landfill. And they said they want to expand it to the west.
To the west.
The west in 1 mile, 75% of that is minority population. And as me and Chamber say, that's what you call environmental racism.
I've heard that before, yeah.
And so to expand it west mean that it's going to affect 75% of that will be minority. So it's something that the minority community need to look at and need to pay attention to it.
And expect in the future for your property to be condemned, because landfills bring rodents. And unless you want to live with rats and roaches, then overwhelmingly what we will see is what happened before, where they will go in and say this is uninhabitable by human beings, and they will condemn those properties and pay off those owners, and
that owner will not get a fair market value for his or her house, because we just had a tax evaluation and all of our profit was lowered unless you live in Jack Brick community, but the tax didn't go down there.
That's true.
Mr. Uncle Ted?
Wednesday or Tuesday, county commissioners removed from their agenda brief the sales tax agreement.
Okay.
All municipalities have already signed what they're asking for, a 5-year delay. And what I'm hearing is they are going to want to make a vote in February this year, or March, before the April deadline. So that kind of tells me I'm not sure the county commissioners are going to go with a 5-year extension, but maybe a 2-year or something. So we have to watch that because
That's
that
something to
affects everybody's
It's
properties.
gonna cut the budget. It's gonna cut the bottom line. Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with?
Well, we had a lot of discussion, and I hope Ted doesn't get upset with me about his name being mentioned as possible members of the PWC board. So, Ted, it behooves you not to talk about the rest of us.
Mr. Ted, what you got for us?
I'm good. I thought Mr. Nagowski was beautiful today.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned stuff I didn't know today.
Absolutely.
I learned a lot of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know about the 16-bed miners, the Valley
That's
Pavilion.
epic, yeah.
I knew about the Med Center, yeah, but I didn't know about the other two. That's good.
Good news. So next week we're going to have our new Police Chief Braden, join us. And we'll be talking with him about his vision for the department, and hopefully we'll hear more about that code enforcement and the enforcement of the laws that are already on the books. But certainly we'd love to introduce him to our audience and to just have a chat with him. And what y'all, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We the people are in charge of this process, the political process. And if we continue to yield our power to what people tell us we ought to do, or what people say we ought to think or feel, we will continue to receive the results that we're receiving from our government. So be involved. Our purpose is to expose you and to educate you as to where to go, who to listen to, what to pay attention to, so that you can yourself begin to make decisions for how you want your community to grow, look, and feel. It's all about you. It's on you. It's all about you. And so as we close out today, I want to tell you God loves you, and I do too. And we like some of y'all, and the rest of y'all, we love you. But we thank our sponsor, LMR Realty Group. We certainly appreciate the fact that you find value in the content we deliver. We find value in our partnership with you, and we hope that you will check them out. Their information is on our Facebook page, so most certainly patronize them as you are looking to buy or sell a property in the near future. We will catch you next week. That's the Gritty in the City, the Word on the Curve. Make sure you like. Our YouTube page is live. So if you want to go and share information, with your friends and family, go to our YouTube page. Feel free to send it on wherever you want to send it. And with that, we will see you next week.